Welcome to my channel Arts and Literature. Our today's topics are: the audio-lingual method is a method of foreign language teaching in which the students learn language by repeating or imitating the recurring patterns, dialogues of everyday situations by a succession of drills. This is one of the earliest and established method of second language teaching. This method mainly focuses on the communicative competence with limited and common communicative structures. This method strongly dominated the field of education in the 1950s and 1960s. This method is also called Army method, because this method is appeared since World War II for the American armies who had to learn language quickly and intensively. Principles: language learning is process of habit formation. This is a way of teaching where students do what teachers ask them to do. Students repeat some selected dialogues after the teachers and memorize rules of grammar and phrases through repeated drills. Through practicing drills, learners form a habit of using the learned language in context. This method emphasized the teaching of listening and speaking before reading and writing. This method is a combination between behavioral psychology and linguistic. It is important to prevent learners from making errors. Errors lead to the formation of bad habits. Students' native language interferes as little as possible with the students' attempts to acquire the target language. Positive and negative feedback are given based on correct and incorrect. Positive reinforcement helps the students to develop correct habit. Students should learn to answer automatically without stopping. Emphasized on drilling and repetition of some selected patterns and structures of the target language. Teacher drills speaking and grammar because in this method, grammar is most important for the students. In this method, the students at first hear a language. Later they speak the language and then they read and write in it. Mother tongue is discouraged in the classroom when this method is used. This method does not encourage lots of vocabulary learning. The learning of a foreign language should be the same as the acquisition of the native language. Use of audiovisual materials such as tapes. Language labs. Focusing on forms and pronunciation, not on meaning. Dialogue is the chief means of presenting vocabulary, structures, and it is learned through repetition and imitation. Emphasize memorization of selected phrases and patterns. The teacher is regarded as an orchestra leader conducting, guiding and controlling the student's behavior in the target language. Language is taught through dialogues. Active participation since there is enough question-answer session in ARM. This method is teacher-dominated. Teacher's role is very important. Advantages of audio-lingual method. Firstly, learners get to practice the target language through speaking and listening. It develops the listening and speaking power. Teachers use a lot of visual aids that is helpful for the learners to internalize the linguistic structures. This method can be used for a group of learners. No translation is allowed in this method. This is done so that learners get maximum exposure to the target language. Through teacher modeling, students learn correct pronunciation. Active participation of the learners. Lucrative for average students. Memorization. It helps learners memorize and remember chunks of the target language and use them whenever necessary. Disadvantages. Learning a foreign language is process of where mistakes are a part. But learners can memorize some parts of a language, but to become competent users of a target language, learners need to use their freedom of using the target language phrases and structures. The major disadvantages of ARM. Nobody can learn a language entirely by memorizing some sentences and patterns. There is no equal focus on all the four skills. Incomplete method. Mechanical learning. This method is based on mechanical learning and there is no room for error. As a result, does not make sense for students. They complete the task because they have to do it, not because they are interested in learning. Only profitable for the hardworking students. Teacher-dominated method. Meaning is neglected. Main focus is language form, not on meaning. The learners assumes a passive role during the learning process. Any kind of spontaneous creative output is missing from this method. Very little attention is paid to communication and content. Limited vocabulary. This method does not teach lots of vocabulary. Little explanation of grammar. This method is not applicable in real-life situation. Goals of audio-lingual method. The overall goal of this method is to develop communicative competence with limited and common communicative structures in the target language. The goal of this method is via teaching grammatical patterns through dialogues and vocabulary to enable students to respond quickly and accurately in the target language. Thanks for watching. If this video is helpful, like, comment and subscribe.